Welcome everyone in this new live development video about building an auto battle game. In this video we're going to add on straight our multiplayer logic rework. So we're going to open up our outgame menu map and we're going to jump right in with our outgame states, which is going to hold most of our logic. So I'm just going to move that window on another screen. Actually no, I'm not, because this way I will make sure I'm making sure you will see that documents if I refer to it. So let's open up our game instance, but no, first let's rename our player states. So we have an out game player states, which is going to be out player. It's kind of a strange way to name it, but it's the same naming convention than the out game state. So out player states like this, and maybe we have something else to modify, not right now. So okay, that's fine. Did it create a redirector? No, it didn't, so we are fine. So we're going to open up our game states and we're going to create a bunch of dispatchers which are going to be the foundation of our new system. So but first let's just open up the outgame state to make sure there is no dispatchers of the same name. No, we don't have them, so we're good with this. So we're gonna have the first dispatcher in the game states, which is going to be dispatch on player joined, which is going to have one parameter, which is going to be the player state which joined, and we're going to select BP player state in player state like this. And we're going to, I think we cannot duplicate that, but it's okay, because the next parameter we're going to create is of the same type. So dispatch on player left with the same parameter in player state like this. And I think we need a bunch of others which are going to be on player values modified. Actually, I think these values, these dispatchers might be on the player state rather. We'll see if it has as well dispatcher for the modify value, because I think the thing that needs to bind to the fact that player state modify their colors or stuff like this actually already have a reference to the player states, so they might be binding themselves to the player states instead of the game states, replicating a dispatcher from the player states. So I think we're going to do this for now, on player joined and on player left. And we are also going to add over our outgame state to create dispatchers that are going to be needed for the outgame as well. So dispatch on game on countdown started, dispatch on countdown cancelled, and maybe and for now it's going to be it. Stop start countdown dispatchers, and it's going to start the game, but that's only going to be on the server. So that's pretty much it, I think, for the base logic of the game states, because we now need to create the events, the functions that are going to record that these events that are actually going to trigger these dispatchers. So on player left is going to call on player left, and on player joined, on player joined is going to be calling on player joined. So we're going to clear the rest of the logic as we go. Maybe we can do some kind of backup, like we browse our content browser, we go to our blueprint folder, show in Explorer, and like we copy that blueprint folder and we paste it somewhere on our computer. and it's better to have some kind of source control, but I didn't set up the source control, so we won't be doing this in this series of live development videos, but you should have some kind of source control. So we have our dispatchers being called when these events are being called, so we just need to make sure that these events are being called at the right time. So on player join, we're going to drag this wire and pin it in our dispatcher, and we didn't for the on player left because we don't have the reference for now, but we will make sure that we have the reference to the player which left. So who is calling these events? On player join and on player left. So nobody's calling there. Nobody's calling them for now. So that's actually kind of strange. Maybe they were bound. Maybe they bound themselves in one way or another. On player left, is it called somewhere? Yeah, it is called. In the out game state, yeah, that sounds logical, but in some other place, on multiplayer lobby, in out player state. So we're getting the out game state and we're telling it that we left. So that sounds quite logical, but I think we want to be calling this in the player state itself. Handle disconnected player, yeah, we are handling this. So but on the only on the game instance, so I think we have to. So we're gonna start removing some functions because we don't know where we are at right now. So we're going to delete all the function handling the fact of living in the out player state, and we're going to go to the blueprint player state, and we actually want to tell our game states. We should have some kind of way to retrieve the game state here, and we don't. But I think that might be, yeah, that will be necessary. Get game states ref. And don't we have already? No, we don't have a function named the same in the out player state, so we won't create a conflict. So it's not going to take a parameter, it's going to take that BP game state, return a value. This is going to be pure, and we're going to promote that to a variable game state ref like this. Is that valid? If it's not, we're going to get the game states, cast it into BP game state and store that into our variable, and then return the value like this. So when we disconnect, we want to tell the game state that we left, not that function, that one. We left, how is it called already? On player left. That's why I wasn't finding it. On player left, and it's asking for a string, but we're going to modify that right away by saying it's going to return, yeah, and it's throwing errors. For now we're just going to get rid of the errors like this, control click to drag this like this, and we're going to plug that in our event. It's compile all nodes, refresh all nodes, and it's gonna work. So yeah, we want that event to require a player state. So it's throwing errors in here as well because we were using that event in the out game state. And I think we want to get rid of that logic as well, like this. Hit refresh all nodes, save, go back to the game state, and we're going to I wanted to clean, where was that? Yeah, in the player states. So we're going to grab this and plug that. This is the player which is living. So what do we want to do here? We want to clean a bit. So this is going to be found in utility. Record to controller. Is the player state going to record to its controller? I think it's not. Never. It's never going to record itself to its controller. What was it doing? It was okay. So it's not going to work this way. If we look at there, I think I didn't add it. But look, I'm going to add it here just so you see the logic I'm following. So we're gonna have a player controller, and we're gonna have an outgame player controller. I'm just going to move this as well, not all of this. So we're gonna have two, an out player controller, I guess it's gonna be called, and a player controller. And the player controller is just going to take care of one thing we needed, which was is the player state local. That's the only reason we needed it. So we're gonna do this in a much cleaner way. So player controller, and the out player controller is going to inherit from this. So we don't know exactly what the out player controller is going to do for now, but we know that the player controller is going to check for his player states to make him local. So we're going to receive we're going to have the information, is the player state local or not, on each machine, each client machine. So that's the reason why that was the main reason why we were doing this. So we're gonna get rid of record player controller. It compiles, so it's gonna return an error. Check for player name. So in here we're going to record to the game state when we receive our player name. So we're gonna create a function record to game states, and we're gonna pull this here for now. Oh yeah, we already created that. Record to game state. So that was the clean way to do this. So on player join, like this. Get game state, we're casting this, we don't need this anymore. We're just gonna do it like this. On player joined. So we're going to delete that event. So when it has a player name, it's going to record to game state, and we're going to put this in initialization. Is local player state, we're going to put this in utility. Check for player name as well. Actually initialization, and all disconnected player, we're going to put this in disconnect. On rep we cannot move them, but they're going to be modified. It's not going to be handled this way. On team color updates, do we need this here already? Yeah, but it's not going to be used that way. Yeah, we're not even calling this. So yeah, this is going to call on event dispatcher, and it's going to be they're all going to be tied up in the same structure. So we don't need on team color update for now. Maybe it's going to throw errors somewhere else, but for now we don't care. So the base logic is here, I think. So if I hit play, do we have yeah, we have prints. We're just going to get rid of all the prints we used in the previous videos. I guess we're going to look for current feature or current features like this. I'm not sure how. I saved all. I'm not sure how. I think we might have some prints in there. Not maybe in the out player state. I just want to, yeah, I just want to find current feature. We can't. I thought we could be looking for the content of this. So I guess we'll be keeping this. So if we hit play, do we have some errors? If we quit, no, we don't. If we click on create game, we have our player entry which is not working and it's not throwing errors. So for now the house is not burning, so we're just going to create the logic used by the player state to record its information, network player and player status. So network player is going to be structure. So in the player folder utils, we used them already. F player, player name, I think this is actually going to be nickname, team color, team ID, and player status, which we're going to create, and we're going to add another integer which is not going to be used right now but which might be used in the future. So slot, and we're going to have a status. And if we're going to create a new blueprint enumerator which is going to be player status like this, and we're going to add a bunch of new enumerator. We have joining, how did I call it, alive, disconnected, dead and traveling. I think we're only going to have joining, idle, disconnected, and dead, like this. So the player structure is going to contain the player status. By default they are going to be joining like this. So we have no errors there's, no errors there's. Do we have errors there's? No. The game state does it no errors as well, which is actually quite strange. But that's because we're never using the structures which was contained in the online player stuff map. So we're going to open up our player state, and it's going to have a variable which are going to be player values, and it's going to use our newly created structure named player, modified structure player. It's going to be rep notify. So we're not going to, by default we're gonna use these values, for instance. Why not? It doesn't matter, I think. We'll see. It should not matter. So we're going to see where team ID is used. It's used there, so we're going to delete that for now. Unwrap team ID. Actually we're going to get rid of team color as well. Delete this and there. Hit compile. It might throw errors. No, it might throw errors in others. Yep, like this. On team change, is it called in here? No, it's not. Where is it called? In the multiplayer lobby. We're going to get rid of this for now. Yeah, so it's gonna throw errors because we removed a lot of stuff. We're not going to care about this for now. So our player state is gonna call an event dispatcher there. On team change, maybe, yeah, it's going to throw that and its structures. Oh yeah, we're gonna crash. We're gonna restart. So we crashed because I think the function was used and it didn't like me modifying it. So the game state is throwing errors, so we're going to get rid of this for now. We're actually going to get rid of everything. We're just going to add our stuff here. Get team color, we're going to get rid. hit compile, hit save, save all, go back to the player state, compile, save all. Okay, that's fine. So our event dispatcher, we're actually just going to delete it and compile, create a new one, dispatch on player value changed like this, on player state value changed, on value changed like this, on values changed, I guess, and it's going to return a player state, BP player state, and a player, our player F player. So we're going to rename our structure because I keep calling it player values like this. Hit compile. Okay, everything looks fine. Values in player states like this. Hit compile. Refresh all nodes. I mean, the player state which called this in is here, and it's gonna return this. So when that player state has some kind of modification is in his nickname, team color, team ID, slot, or status, he's going to call that event, that dispatcher, and the stuff who needs it is going to bind itself to that dispatcher. This way we're going to avoid a lot of I don't know how to say aller-retour, a lot of round trip in between blueprints. So I think we're ready to do some kind of tests. So we have our disconnection, initialization, and utility, and this we cannot clean it. So we're just going to build a logic for the player controller which has to set its player state to local. So when his player state is ready, it's checking. Yeah, so it's waiting for his player states to have a name, and when it does, it records them all. So I think we don't need this at all. We don't need this at all. So we're going to get rid of the record player state function. On player states ready as well. Record pending player states as well. We're going to go back to check for player states. We're going to rename that check for local player states. Remove pending player states. Go in here. So when his player state is going to have a name, it's just going to tell him that it's now local. So we're going to need to cast that into our type of player state, and we're actually going to need some kind of way to retrieve that event. So we're going to create a new dispatcher, dispatch on local player sets. I don't like the name, but I don't have a better one on top of my head for now. So new function, set local states on local state set. Oh, okay, like this. Initialization, set local states. It's going to call that. So this is also going to set that to true. So it's a local player state and it's calling this. So anything that needs to have the information about the local state is going to bind itself to that. So the player controller is just going to call this local set local states. So as soon as our player state is spawned, it's going to set a local state. But the only problem here is that the server is actually going to set each player state to local, and that's actually not what we want. So we want to check if we are locally controlled before doing this. Check for local player state. So when our player state is ready, if we are locally controlled, we're going to check when our player state is ready. So it spawns, it's ready on my machine. I'm only doing this on my machine, so only the server is checking if his own player state is ready. It's going to set the local state. Then the client does this. It checks if it's local. When his player state is ready, it sets its local. So I guess it's gonna work quite nicely there. So player states know that they are ready. Know that they are local, I mean. Check for local player states, and it's going to work both in in-game and out-game because we've done that in the player controller. And we're actually going to rename the in-game controller BP in-player controller. Do we have redirectors? No, we don't. Okay, that's fine. And out-game BP out player controller, like this. Player values, lobby player, is that still used? No, it's not. Player entry, okay. So we might as well be deleting this right away in the player entry. Set player team, no, where is it used? Get size box, get title text. So I'm wondering, my bad. So lobby player, oh yeah, it's using the player entry, my bad. The right, yeah, obviously. The right, when you check for reference, on the left are the things using your asset, the asset you are browsing, and on the right it's the assets being used by the asset you are browsing. So let's just get rid of the lobby player. It's going to close all of our blueprints, but it doesn't matter. Delete. So we are fine with this. So our player state is actually recording himself to the game state. So we're just going to check if that works properly or not in the game state. We're going to print. Do we have prints yet already? So we have errors all over the place, and we're going to open them up. We're going to open up these spots just to get rid of the logic which is no longer going to be used. BP unit, I think it's going to retrieve, it's trying to retrieve the team color. I was thinking about the team, but we don't care for now. We're going to get rid of that. BP unit, out player controller, like this. In player state, record player state. So I think we were, so this is a problem. If we compile everything, internal compiler error, try to create a property in player state. So I think the problems come from, I think we just need to delete this. Okay, so it was creating player entry in the out player state, and that's not, that's completely what we don't want. The kind of turn, how is it called? Turn around, a round trip. We want to avoid. So we're just going to get rid of that function, hit compile, okay, everything goes fine. And I think we want to get rid of this as well. What does it do? Create main HUD, yeah, we want that. Out game menu ref, yeah, we want to record that. Pending join player. Okay, I think we want that logic. Actually not. This is going to be handled by the the multiplayer lobby itself. So I think we're going to get rid of that logic like this. Create main HUD, creating the outgame menu. We're fine with this. So what other problem we have? Multiplayer lobby and outplayer state. So outplayer state, Control P to bring that menu. Outplayer states and multiplayer lobby. So we have some errors. Set player team. Yeah, we want to get rid of this. We don't care. We have way too many things here. So I deleted. So we deleted the error. Set team color. Yeah, it's all going to pass by the same event here. Switch team color, unready toggle. So we want that in the outplayer state. We do want that, but we don't want that in the outplayer state. So we're going to get rid of this. Because we want to be able to modify the player color while we are in game, which means we need to put that in the in the player state, so the parent class. On team color update, we don't want that anymore, because it's going to be called in the player state, in the parent class. We do want that. Unready toggle. Unread be ready. Update entry ready checkbox. So we don't want that. We want the checkbox to update, to work by itself and to update itself. So we're going to get rid of this. I think we were calling this in the replication when the player is ready. So we are calling the game state to tell it that we are ready. And I wonder if we are creating a dispatcher or if we do call the game state. So what did I plan when I think about it? So the out player state is going to dispatch unready change. So yeah. Hit compile, okay, we're fine. Dispatcher, dispatch unready toggle, unready updates. So it's going to have two parameters, a player state, out player state, and a boolean, be ready. And it's going to call that, refresh all nodes, and this player state is going to call this, and player ready is going to be called like this. And we still have that logic which we need, and that's all clean and neat, like in the outgame player controller. And the game state, it's not so clean. I think we still have that local variable which we want to get rid of. On player left, we are storing that information. Online players, we have their values, and we are storing them by player name. So I guess we want to keep that logic. When a player joined, when a player left, online players. It's going to mirror the information in the player states themselves. So I guess we can keep that and keep that updated all the time. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to grab this and plug that in here. That's what. So the game state has getters to read all player state info. So it just actually has to keep track of the online players, and it doesn't need that information right away. So I think it doesn't need to store that information. It needs to has getters, which means that you're going to be able to call the game state to retrieve information about any players just using his name. So I think we're going to get rid of this as well. like this. Do we still have error when we hit play? Yeah, because we deleted something which was used in the outgame state. Outgame states. Get online player, on player switch color. So we don't want that anymore, since the switch color is going to be handled by the parent class. Like this. The multiplayer lobby, I think the outgame state is never, ever, we should never have to create that. That's really there shouldn't be any link between a multiplayer lobby and in a game state in that way. It should only go that way, mostly because this is an object which is used over the network, handling multiplayer, handling stuff for multiple players, and this is only local, so this should be tied, this should never be called within such an object, such as the game state. So we're going to get rid of this. It's not going to start the countdown, and we're not going to add 1 second because this was a source of a bug. So we will still need this, and it's gonna call the event dispatcher we created. Call dispatcher on countdown started. We're going to hit compile. Stop start countdown is going to, so get multiplayer lobby, we're going to get rid of this. On countdown cancelled, the multiplayer lobby is going to bind himself to these events like this. So get multiplayer lobby is out of the picture. On player ready, we're going to need this. We're not going to clean that logic for now. Start game is going to server trouble. Okay, so far so good. So required player amount, countdown duration, start game, can modify ready status. Are we still okay? We'll see. If we hit play, multiplayer lobby. Okay, so it's still up. Where are we using the variable we deleted? Switch team color, ask for a color switch. So yeah, we are indeed going to call our player state here to switch for color. Max countdown, current countdown. Yeah, we're still going to need this as well. If we hit play, we're not on the right map because we crashed. So we're going to go in our outgame menu, hit play. Do we have errors? No, we don't. If we find game, no. If we create a game, so we have some kind of print. So we have no errors if we create the game. We just don't have any. We just don't have any track of the fact that we are on this lobby because we broke most of our logic. But we were initially in the game state trying to see if we have a name brought when we connect. So hit play, create game. So we had print and we have a name here. Does it still work? It should be still working, I think, or maybe not. Okay, so we have the proper amount of prints going on there, so that logic is working. So right now what do we want? We want to make it so that when we create a game, this is updating properly. But maybe we're going to just stop to start up a new video. So let's do this. Hope you guys enjoyed that, even if it's just cleaning up, and hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.